I've been doing some shifting around and, crossing the streams of the artsy side of things, my own personal creations, and providing a service, but using like my artsy proclivities, particularly with storytelling. Thus, the topic is about disruptive. Wait, let me double check. Disruptive storytelling, innovative leadership, and helping Black women escape. What are we escaping? We'll get into it on this episode of Artsy, Biz and Chill, the art side, or more so, it's not really, I guess, the art side. It's like I had an art business that is my own personal creation and all that it is, like with my own stories, my own characters, my own everything, my complete ownership. So this gets into the business side of it. I do this every Wednesday. Typical episodes are first, third, and occasional Fridays, where I more so do an overview as an innovative boss in the realm of entrepreneurship and a bit of travel in due time. But, that's more open-ended. And then I have FinTech, Biz and Chill, because that is where I offer my services as a story advisor. And that's where we got some, bringing it all together, synthesizing. That is, that's an art in itself that I think I'll get into once I have my system solidified. But for the foundation wise, the topic of disruptive storytelling, innovative leadership, and helping Black women escape. Let's start from the bottom, which is with my arts business, is my speculative fiction brand, Cosmic Africana. That is under my Substack, All Things Laniverse. And I write a short story every month. I'm compiling those every year into an anthology to sell every Black History Month. And my target audience is Black women. And the maybe selling point that I emphasize is the escapism. Still working on the messaging behind it, but typically entertainment is a form of escapism. My thing is that this is healthy, it's intentional, where it's not just removing yourself from the world for the sake of numbing or not addressing anything. It's an opportunity to revitalize yourself, to restore yourself, and to just reevaluate on, ways that you do life. Because that's the whole thing with the value of storytelling in general, especially in business, is because it's influential as far as like humans. As I say in multiple episodes, humans, we are emotional creatures. When it comes to making buying decisions, we make the decision with emotion and justify it with logic, regardless of what you try to tell yourself about your condition as a Homo sapien. You are a social, emotionally squishy creature. Logic is not, you're maybe more intelligent than most of the creatures on this planet, but the average person is not optimized on that. So, that's neither here nor there. But the overall point is that the escapism element, that I'm making it healthy and intentional, is like I curate an entire experience around it. I have dubbed that AfroFeminine Escapetivities, pulled from Saweetie's song Richtivities is the inspiration for that wordplay. But it's building an entire experience, bringing, creating immersion with my stories where you get to have tea. I have affiliate partners that you can get tea, crystals, candles, weed drinks from, as it stands with the legality, give or take what happens with that by the end of the year. But, eventually I am adding my own merch sometime, maybe closer to Q4. That'll be happening. I'm still laying out the logistics, but and I put together a playlist. There's just so much. There's so much with this. So I want this to be an immersion ritual where, for the time being, you can only access it, my stories, digitally until, I get the anthology, the compilation printed. But so I've encountered with my algorithm and with some people, it's like there's this disdain from like digital and technology, because it's just like with anything in America, people just overdo shit and want somebody else to stir. What am I trying to say? Move the steering wheel. Drive the vehicle, like tell them what to do, to put the parameters around why they should have access to things. And it's like, where is your, you got free will, right? Put that to use. But, it's an element of containment, which I'll get into. But to assist with that process, I'm helping to build this ritual, maybe cultivating a healthier relationship with the digital as well, because I am a digital entrepreneur. I've gotten 80% of things in my life from using technology and social media. Like when people say social media isn't real, it's just like, I got all my business contacts from social media. There's other humans on the side of these things, like some of it's bots, sure, but there's another human on the side of it. And because we exist in reality, this is the through way for us to connect. Like, sure, there are people performing or whatever, but it's just like, that's just nonsense. That's just nonsense for people who are just, again, are just doing things because other people are doing things. There's no intention behind it. People complain about being on social media as if you can't just take the app off your phone or not log in, delete the account. You don't have to be on every single app. You don't have to do every single thing. Like, make your own goddamn perimeters. But alas, I help with that by building the parameters of put your phone on do not disturb, carve out 30 minutes, even though, like, because the story, I put out a part every week. But the stories usually, like, each story part takes less than 10, according to what Substack says. It gives you like the amount of time that it'll take to read it. I don't think I've written anything that takes more than 10 minutes to read, but ultimately it's still setting aside that time to just take your time and focus on this and not focus on anything else. So you can turn it into a whole ritual. Like the whole 30 minutes is spending, 10, 15 minutes preparing the tea, getting your favorite snacks, turn on the candle, playing the playlist, getting all that set up. And getting yourself comfy, telling people not to talk to you for 30 minutes. Tell them don't talk to you for an hour, 2 hours, if you want to. But the overall sentiment is, again, with helping Black women to, in a sense, escape the zeitgeist of just moving without intention, as far as feeling like you gotta do and be and give everything. It's time for you to be with yourself, to explore this other woman's story, this other Black woman's story. In this month's case, this intergalactic sexologist, her solo vacation, or my previous story where the main character retired herself before the age of 30 and lives in Thailand and has mystical powers. Like, yeah, there's a fantastical element. So it's also like my characters live laid back, enjoyable lives. There will be conflict. There will be conflict in future stories. But life isn't all drama and dysfunction and hustle and bustle. And even when there's conflict, like, it seems intense because you have so much going on that you don't make space to breathe. You don't have you don't have capacity for anything else. So everything seems weighty and overwhelming. These are things that, I'm working through my own self. And to couple it with that, I started putting together this companion guide called Revitalize You with AfroFeminine Escapetivities, which presents AfroFeminine Escapetivities as a philosophy, a lifestyle. And I have a chapter you can get. Everything that I talk about is in the show notes to go to the respective pages. I have a free chapter called The You Container, Physical Embodiment as Anchoring. Because another major thing that I can only speak for, look, I stay on the woman side, namely the Black woman side of the internet. Market research, connectivity, and everything. And even just observing, the Black women in my life, that there is a detachment from one's own body and your own experiences. So to some degree, the escapism that I present is also getting Black women to escape within themselves, to reconnect with yourself. So that's what that chapter is about, getting into an overview of that, and then giving some tips, guided meditation, journal prompts, and you can also pay to pre-order the actual book that comes out August 28th during Black Business Month. So just wanted to put that out there. Again, show notes. If you want that freebie, go for it. Let me know what you think. Pre-order AfroFeminine Escapetivities. Because before you can liberate anybody else, you got to liberate yourself. And you can do but so much liberating if you exhausted and worried about everybody else and not taking proper care of yourself. That seems to be the norm. That I guess I am looking to disrupt, which segues into talking about disruptive storytelling that is coinciding with innovative leadership. For starters, there's this dude, there's this entrepreneur, Matt Gray, who I just know his company Herb, which is like a canvas magazine, that he had started, I don't know, well over 10 years ago. And he has like other businesses. He's on YouTube teaching people about personal branding, entrepreneurship, and everything. And I haven't dove in too deep into his videos because I have but so much tolerance for monotone white dudes who barely express emotion. That's what so much of that content. It's very informative, but I need some flavor. His shit's chill though. Like, he be working from beaches and like nice places, but be a little bit more soul, my guy. He's getting there. But all that to say, he gets into a personal branding ecosystem framework, and he said like with him developing his growth on LinkedIn, he focuses on keywords. I'm sure he's not the first person to talk about this, but he the first one, maybe compared to like Chris Doe may have said this, but I just remember distinctly from a Matt Gray video I'd watched 2 years ago, where he gets into having a distinct keyword that is going to be like kind of like the anchoring or the core of your messaging when you are making personal branding content, because then it resonates with your audience, potential customers, about the specific problem that you solve and what your positioning is. So in the realm of disruptive storytelling, innovative leadership, overlapping, I was researching like books because I played around with the keyword as a disruptor maybe early this year, kind of like last year. And then as I given the tagline for this podcast, I talk about innovation. And so I was researching some books on disruptive leadership, innovative leadership, and the two words end up overlapping often. And like part of the reason why I have been moving more towards identifying myself as a creative more so than as an innovator more so than a creative, is because creative is kind of like open-ended. I think there is like a bit of inference that you're doing something that's different and revolutionary, whereas innovative, because it has that strong tech background, and we're all, you're listening to this podcast because of innovations in technology that have fundamentally changed us on a global level and as a species, how we interact with each other, how we're able to do things. So that's the direction that I feel that what I'm doing is in, like, because in the next factor with the disruption is, the innovation disrupts the traditional way of things, the conventional way of things, the things that people are used to. Things like what? I was briefly around because as a millennial, people can't seem to figure out like what decade we were alive and what things we had access to. It's like I had cassette tapes as a kid. I lived through cassette tapes, CDs, MP3s, to streaming music. Like all of that over the course of my lifetime. The cassette tapes, the CDs, that was like maybe elementary school to middle school, and then into high school. Then in high school, that's when I got my iPod. Yeah, I got my first iPod. And I started streaming music in my 20s. And that's like going from a house phone to everybody can afford a flip phone. Then the smartphone showed up. Then everybody could access smartphones. Like all of these changes disrupted the music industry. It disrupted, the capacity for connection and being able to talk to people. Again, like the advent of technology and just the expansiveness of just the digital options is, what changed things as far as globalization. I went to college for Japanese. I started taking Japanese in middle school and high school, went to college for it. And getting books, because like I live in Maryland, getting books that were in Japanese, getting comics, getting manga and everything, that was like a huge deal, being able to do it, and it was very expensive. Now you can just make an Amazon Japan account and get the Amazon Kindle, get books in Japanese there, or you can order Japanese books from Amazon Kindle and they show up in like a week, versus I had a book that took 2 or 3 months because the cheapest shipping was like on a freight, on a boat. It was ocean freight. And, because of the disruption of technology and the flow of things are just way more convenient and easy to access. So all that to say, I find that I feel like it's a given with art that innovation and disruption are happening. And give or take with art, you are disrupting the status quo. You're addressing things that people are not comfortable with discussing or even acknowledging. And on the innovative part, side of things, it's just making stuff that's new or that's unfamiliar and bringing that into the world and growing that. So that is my outlook on how I handle Cosmic Africana and AfroFeminine Escapetivities. Those are innovations. I came up with those names. I built out these frameworks. I'm sure I'll have, in due time, other women copying me and then pretending that they came up with it. And, there'll probably be some dudes too, a little bit of thems as well. Copying me and trying to steal my concepts and acting like they came up with it or just refusing to tag me and because people are weird. But that's the gamut that comes with being an innovator, is everybody want a piece of the pie. They don't want to really provide no ingredients, but they feel like they should know the secret sauce. But I digress. Maybe there is a disruption with the way that I'm telling the stories, because I refuse to center Black trauma. I refuse to go on about the woes of coexisting with white people and the shit that they done to us. Other people of my ilk, of my demographic, have written about this, write about it, and will continue to write about it. I'm not knocking it. It's just, that's not what I'm doing around here. And that's a further emphasis of what my desire for the escapism is that you get to have a break from thinking about all the weight that comes with being a Black woman and constantly have to consider a man or a white or a non-Black person's views and this and that. Is okay, just, you get a break from it all. We ain't even thinking about it. I'm not even going to talk about it. Why do I need to write about what you already experienced, what you already get from other content, from other works of art? You don't need that around here. So I think that is my element of disruptive storytelling, is that other races, I think that's a part of the appeal of, I said, I got into Japanese, I got into anime when I was before the age of 10, maybe 8 or 9. So then go to middle school and learn Japanese and everything. And then as I've gotten into, I enjoy Japanese music. I've read translated Japanese literature. And Japan, they had, Japanese people, they got their own issues, right? But because they have their own sovereign country and their own identity, yes, they have a problematic history. But fundamentally, there's a freeness in how they make art, because there isn't the historical and present day racial tension and drama and denial and everything that comes with being a Black American. They're able to just be, and that is, at least with the art that I've engaged with, I feel that always like felt and enjoyed that energy of just kind of a level of kind of just purity, of not having layers of trauma and drama involved. And that's what I bring to my storytelling. What I'm bringing to this is just removal from that. Because I made a playlist for the You Container chapter of the AfroFeminine Escapetivities book. And there's this Lupe Fiasco song called All Black Everything. And I decided to make that the first track of that playlist because what? He put that song out when, like 2011 with Lasers. That was kind of like, I guess, a fall off point for me. This is not my favorite Lupe album. But he has a bonus track on there that I really love and resonate with, because it is literally a song about what if we'd never been enslaved? What if we had just always had our freedom? What if there was no racial persecution? Who would we be? And that's, I can't say, I mean, I guess I will potentially make a story like that, because there is like magical realism elements to the stories that I tell. It's just that I'm not continually bringing up these experiences, is that it's still a part of those earth-based worlds. But there's this chick, Charisse, on Substack. She had come up with, I may be screwing up the concept. I think it's along those lines. But she created a concept called Afrophoria, which is essentially that concept. I gotta DM her and hit her up about that song. Of just who would we be without the distortions, the twisted ways that Europeans infiltrated our country, our continent, and colonized us? What if colonization wasn't even a thing? What if they had actually come and like actually been real allies, and like we helped build America, not we were forced to build America? Like what would that be like? So that's that element. And to overlap with how I'm doing the storytelling in FinTech industry and offering that as a service. So I position myself as a story advisor. I do an audit, I do workshops, and then I also help with implementation. My whole thing is refining or being involved with the development of content campaigns, but bringing a imaginative storytelling element to it. The business goal is to increase their differentiation and the trust of their brand through the campaign that I work with them on. So that's just disruptive in itself, because with FinTech, they don't get too creative. Like finance people, they don't be that creative. They be saying they different. And like when it comes to branding, not doing a great job of standing out. Building trust, because like people's money is involved, is important. So the trust element is an emotional element. So again, like as I had begun with, storytelling is an emotional connection. Like even talking about all black everything always gets me emotional, because I don't know if it'll ever go away, but there is like a perpetual sadness that I feel about us because of what happened to us and what still happens to us. So to be able to tell a story, because I guess the song is about 4 minutes long, but to have told a story in a song that I heard back in 2011, and I still feel very visceral about it in 2026, lends credence to the power of storytelling, and especially adding an imaginative element to it, and how that can have a lasting effect in a content campaign. So the innovative leadership aspect of it is people be scared. people are scared of change. And in the previous artsy Biz Chill episode, maybe also like the FinTech Biz Chill episode, I'd gotten into like how when it comes to creativity, there's kind of like, that is something that has to, like, the imagination has to be cultivated. To be able to execute on concepts is a craft. It is a discipline. And when a creative, an artist, an author is able to do that at such a high level, it's like people don't want to give them credit and acknowledge that that is something that had to be cultivated. It's like, because what I talked about before, and I feel like this is why I'm taking a break from threads. It's corny. Like, people would just be copying and pasting other people's posts and acting like they came up, like, all that for clout. Nobody pay attention to you in real life, huh? It's like another chick posted the same thing from the chick the week before about how, oh my goodness, I can't fathom how George R.R. Martin was able to build out so much detail with Game of Thrones and Fire and Blood and House of the Dragon. And it's like, first of all, clearly you ain't read no J.R.R. Tolkien, shorty. Or J.R.R. Tolkien. You ain't read no The Hobbit. You ain't even watched the movies or Lord of the Rings. Like, I ain't read all of it. But you haven't seen the movies. It's a whole expansive world. And then when you get into the realm of, like, because I've read a handful of other, I forgot the name of this one. It was very transformative for me. But it was this one fantasy series that I read. It was my first introduction to how I'll get into reading other cultures stuff, but like it was the white people introduction. My introduction to fantasy was the white people version, and there's like incest is a thing. So I think it was like one of the characters, his grandma was trying to holler at him. It's just and I'm like, wow, y'all really on this. That's crazy. But in any case, certain tropes in fantasy. All that to say, there was an entire like lore, world building. You got the map, you got different races, you got different languages, you got magic, like you got different power systems. And I guess because I played like Final Fantasy games, and each Final Fantasy game is its own respective kind of world. Because I'm thinking like, I guess they did speculate that there's like some loose connections between them, but each game has its own respective map and races. Like some of the races overlap, but like some of the magic systems do overlap. But it's like, that's the world that I come from, is that's par for the course with fantasy. And people's responses to that is like, oh, you have to be on drugs to come up with these concepts. And it's just like, you just haven't cultivated your imagination since you was like 6 years old, numbnut. That's just asinine. So that in itself is understanding the limitations of people's capacity for creativity and imagination. And then putting that in a business setting where you consider like Hollywood and Disney, where they keep just churning out remakes of what's already been successful because they're afraid to try something new. They're afraid, even though they got all this money, they're afraid to invest in a new IP, like something like Sinners. And most of Ryan Coogler's work, well, I guess not most of it is original, but even when it comes to Creed, that's a different direction from the Rocky franchise. But ultimately, Sinners was a standout film from 2025 because it's original and it's self-contained. You have to have a certain level of leadership to select people who have the creative courage and confidence to go along for that journey, and then also to help cultivate some more confidence and to push the limit with their courage so that they're still growing in their own creativity and with this whole process of innovation. Because even in that, like, as I've been learning, as I have observed, hitting publish is just the beginning. Like, you already went through the whole production process. You went through the whole ideation, putting the strategy together. Like, the purpose of the innovative leadership, like a director, anybody who's in charge, it's not just an over glorified boss. There has to be a grounding, centered energy that is the North Star, or the person holding the North Star, holding the light, the beacon, to keep everybody focused on sticking to the plan, making adjustments to the plan if they have to be made, but keeping everything on course and being the emotional grounding for when people start bugging, because most humans don't like change, but humans also don't like the consistency required when you're going through a process of change. There's a lot of discomfort. It's a lot of personal, like, it just hits different layers of you. And then that energy can start playing off of other people, and you got a bunch of discord if you don't have a grounded, focused leader who helps to see things through. And so I do and I don't have to do that when it comes to all things Laniverse. It's growing my audience is very much a slow burn, but ultimately, when it comes to the AfroFeminine Escapetivities, I am the innovative leader in the room because I've created these parameters. I've created a container with which to, I'm inviting you in. I'm guiding you through this process. And the whole reason of putting a companion guide together and a whole book is just reading isn't enough. It's like, sure, I could just write on the topics. It's like, no, I have to, or I'm choosing to add action steps. Sure, there's a journal prompt. You can journal whatever and just not actually do stuff. So me providing the framework and being clear on what the action steps are and putting that in each chapter, and then making guided meditations, making affirmations, so that I am aiding in this process of being being a leader is being a guide. It is serving the follower. It's not just like if you're being in charge just to be in charge, and you taking advantage of people and disrespecting people and treating them poorly just because of hierarchical reasons. That is egoic. That is not to the benefit of the whole. You may get a result. You may get stellar results for a time, but it's not sustainable in the long haul. And ultimately, it's not making the whole healthier. It's not making the whole stronger and cultivating the potential and, most importantly, the confidence in individuals to learn to lead themselves in whatever capacity that they choose to. As I've learned, as people don't want to make decisions for themselves depending on what it is. So that's the role of the leader, is to aid in that process and to fill in the blanks where where it is permitted, allowed, where they want it to happen. So that's then what I'm bringing to the service that I'm providing in FinTech. Is it's business and it's money. There's a cap that certain people may have creatively. There may be people who have ideas that they haven't been able to get buy-in on because of resistance from their stakeholders and decision makers. I'm coming in as the innovative leader to influence that change and making it clear on why it's actually beneficial to make these changes or to explore these specific ideas. Because otherwise it is impeding the growth of this individual. It's impeding the growth of the team to not be able to challenge themselves. And also for the company not to challenge themselves in how they're presenting their story and presenting themselves to the public, to their target audience, because they're trying to stick to a safe option while trying to stand out. You can kind of have it both ways, and you're gonna get kind of subpar results. You may get great results for a time. That won't be a long time. Well, of course, we can define what a long time is, depending on your business goals. But alas, that is everything for me to touch on this subject. If you are getting curious about Cosmic Africana, reading the latest story for this month, go to the All Things Laterverse Substack. If you want to read the free chapter of Revitalize You with AfroFeminine Escapetivities, I provide that link as well. You will be getting on a separate email list for that, because I am selling a product. So you'll join the All Things Laterverse e-boutique list for that. And or you can go ahead and pay and pre-order for your book. It'll be digital. There will not be a physical edition until 2027 when I put out the anthology. But there is a bonus that you get for if you choose to pre-order in advance. You get a little exclusive affirmation audio. And I'm still figuring out what else extra to put in that for real. If you got some ideas, by all means, comment on the Art of Biz and Chill Substack or the All Things Laterverse Substack. You can find me on, at this point in time, I'm just posting on Substack and LinkedIn and a bit on YouTube. I just get so distracted with other posts, and I gotta curate the feeds to stop giving me garbage or stuff that's off topic. So I am off of other platforms for a while, so I am particularly in those places. And if you're curious about my services, go to laneverseworks.com. And I think that's it. Oh, if you want to book a call and, just network, as long as you're not like a crazy person or a loser, you can talk to me for 20 minutes. That link is available. And that's it. Be sure to subscribe to the Art of Biz and Chill email list, newsletter. Again, all the links are in the show notes. We'd love your engagement. For you to like, comment, share with love. And I will catch you in the next one. Deuces for glory and pleasure. Malene Ayo out.